today we got to play Empires of the North.
Imperial Settlers, Empires of the North.
Yes, so this is a alternative to Imperial Settlers. So let's get into this. But before we do, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell because you want to see all the different games that we're about to go to play, right?
You know, to buy. I thought you were going to say, and I think that's more appropriate.
No.
Okay, well, Gen Con's coming, so there'll be a lot more coming. I'm just saying.
There's no vendors coming to Gen Con.
Don't say that. We already know one big one's coming there.
That's true.
Great Western Trail.
And I am kind of excited about some of the smaller vendors that we'll get to see this year. But tell us more about this.
We will be at Gen Con, by the way, so come check us out. We'll be up there. Come say hi.
All right, Randy, tell us more about this game.
So it was designed by Ignacy Trzewisk and Joanna Kijanka. Artists were Grzegorz Bobrowski and Roman Kucharski. It was published by Portal Games, and it's got a BGG rating of 7.6. It's in the top 500, I believe, of their games, and it's 1 to 4 players, and it's a newer version of Imperial Settlers.
So let's talk about quality of pieces. So you have wooden resource tokens. They are in the shape of the resource. The axes, however, are cardboard.
And the coins.
So
it does come in a nice tray, though. It's removable.
Yeah, so the organization tray, top notch on that one, like that. And then the cards. So the card quality is, okay, not linen finish. I do think they're pretty thick and they're okay on that front. But as far as extras,
but again, you're going to shuffle these a lot, so
yeah,
probably
so you
you'll
probably
want
sleeves anyway.
If you're a sleever,
so then it wouldn't matter about linen finish or not. And then you actually have the player board, which are just cardboard, not player board, the scoreboard, as well as the exploration area.
And then you got wooden tokens and stickers, which is a big bummer. Even the face of the first player token, Yeti, has got a sticker on it. So that was a really bummer.
Yeah, you don't like stickers.
No, I don't.
I like stickers. All right, but so overall, I think they actually did a really great job on this. There's some nice quality components. Is there anything spectacular? No, but it's very serviceable, and there's nothing like truly chintzy about it. So I'm actually going to probably give this a 7.5. What are your thoughts?
I don't see that. I think it's pretty basic as far as, the cardboard doesn't have a linen finish on some of the tokens, which is interesting when they didn't put it on the cards. The cards are the main piece of it, that's a big downer for me. As far as the wooden components, there's some basic standard shapes, but you see these in a lot of games anymore. And as far as really, it's just cardboard. I think it's more of a 6 to me. It's okay.
I'm going to duly note this when we cross other games that you rate higher.
This is an Imperial Settlers game. Remember, that's one of my top 10 games. It's going to get graded based upon my impression based upon Imperial Settlers.
Okay. So, talking about theme. So, this theme is a little bit different in the fact that you have several different clans of the northern hemisphere. So, you have the Irish, the Scottish, 2 different ice tribes, if you will, and I say those loosely, and there's a few other ones that were more like your Nordic kind of thing. So that was kind of interesting. You play a clan, and you explore and try to gain resources and obviously victory points with that. I thought I liked the theme. I liked playing your own little clan. I got to be the one with the little penguin on it. That was why I chose the one I did, because normally I would have went with the redhead. But yeah, so I thought that was interesting, and I kind of liked the theme. It's a cute little theme. Is it anything spectacular or draws you in? No, but it's cute. A cute little theme. I'm going to go with a 7 on it. What are your thoughts?
I've always liked the art of Imperial Settlers games. They usually have little tiny people in all the pictures, and I always liked that. And I like, they did go really cute on the characters in this, I thought. I didn't have my Romans in this set, but there's an expansion with my Romans in it.
But they're not from the north.
But they've added them on. They're taking these sets from the original Imperial Settlers and they're mixing them in. So you can play all the factions that are coming from.
But
the
you're
Imperial
not.
Settlers.
They're not empires of the north.
Well, they're still
They're
associated.
empires from
They're-
the south.
The Romans, to be fair, invaded most of the world. So at one
Alright,
point they were sort of north.
I will give you Roman, but it seems like there's a Japanese islands over
Yes,
there.
there is.
that-
There's the Amazons, and yeah, there's lots of them.
North of something.
Yeah.
I guess they're north of something. Okay.
So yeah, I mean, it loosely adheres to the North name, but it's adding into the fact that they get to play with the sailing and the exploration and the fishing. So that's where the North comes in, I think. But yeah, I mean, thematically, it's cute. There's nothing. It's layered on completely. You could play as anything really. It's just resource management and building.
Which I like.
Yeah, I like engine building. As far as the theme, I'm probably at about a 6.5. It's not hugely important to the game, but it's there, and I like the art.
So moving on to rules.
The rules, it was actually probably harder for me because I was thinking this was going to be pretty much a mirror of Imperial Settlers, and it wasn't. There was a lot of things that were different about this.
Which I think is good though. If
Oh,
you're
it
going
is.
to buy a new
It's like
game,
you don't want to rebuy the same game. I agree. So now it's a matter of which one do I like better. So we'll get to that in a little bit. But as far as the rulebook goes, it is pretty straightforward. It's kind of odd. It's like they went for a cheaper grade of paper. It's not the standard. This is more like a biodegradable paper as opposed to a standard paper that you would have in a rulebook. So I'm not sure if I like that because I'm not sure if this is going to hold up over time.
I'm not sure I'm a fan either.
As far as the rules go, it's only 12 pages long. There were a few questions we had during the play that referred to keywords that were not clearly defined in the keywords section on the back. And it was nothing really that hard, but we just had to go back and kind of put rules together to make sure we were doing it correctly. It's a pretty straightforward read other than that. I'm going to probably give it a 7. I think it does its job pretty well. I think we had to look at it a few times during the game to try to refer back and see what did something do and make some judgments on some of the cards.
Yeah. So, moving on to gameplay. So, gameplay has some similarities in the fact that you have to Imperial Settlers. You do have 2 workers that you get to place on a action choice thing, but most of the majority of your actions are actually going to be card based. So you get 3 free harvest cards. You get those resources at the start of the game, and then you begin the drafting process. So you pick up a hand of 4. You get to choose the ones you get to keep. Each one that you keep, you have to pay a meeple for. It looks like little Yodas, personally, pink Yodas. Or little
and for
buns.
some reason they slipped in a black ninja figure into the mix with them. It's in the bag. I kept it in the box, but I don't understand why.
Oh, this one doesn't have the hat.
Yeah, there's the men and the women. This is the hat. It's the women's hair. It sticks out ponytails.
Oh, that's
So
kind of cool.
male
I
and
didn't
female
even
characters.
notice that. So that's kind of cool. Well, anyway, so you play the colonists for it, or you play the meeples that you have, or your population, and then that's how many cards you get to keep, and then you work on trying to build those cards and do the actions on those cards to overall end up achieving victory points. You get 1 action on your turn, and you keep going until everyone runs out of actions, and then you're going to pass. So very much like your Terraforming Mars and other games that do that kind of function.
Imperial Settlers.
Or Imperial Settlers. That one was first, I guess.
All right. So the big differences between this game and Imperial Settlers, since if you're an Imperial Settlers fan like I am, that's really what the big interest of this is. First of all, there's no harvest in this game. There's no harvest phase. There's a harvest action. So you have to actually take an action to trigger it. And that's where this ring of actions comes in. It's one of the actions you can take.
And there's other cards that give you that action too. So
yeah, there's cards that will trigger it. Just like in Imperial Settlers, there's cards that give you different abilities. But as a round, you don't get it by default. You get resources. The second big difference is the decks are pre-built. So in Imperial Settlers, you have a stack of cards, and if you've had expansions, you get more cards for every set, and then you keep building, and ultimately, you're supposed to design it based on skill points to add cards to the deck to make it a smaller size deck. I think that's 30 card size or something like that. But you have so many points worth of cards you can put into it. This one, it's already pre-built, so there's no designing of the cards. Which that piece of it I think is good because I think it got a little unwieldy and out of hand on Imperial Settlers, and we never actually even played with that. We've always just whatever cards we had, we just added them into the mix, and somebody's deck was this tall, it was that tall. So Rob and I talked during the Imperial Settlers review about the fact that we'd like to play it where we actually build the decks pre-build them before the game, but we never did. So this one I think streamlines that a bit. The downside of it is that you're going to end up with decks that could be different balance, and that's one of the things that I'm not sure if certain decks might be more powerful or less powerful than others. Certainly, it felt that way during this first game.
I just think I have that much skill.
I didn't say you didn't. I'm just saying that your deck seemed way more powerful than mine. I think your dad's deck actually was more powerful than either of our decks, but he just didn't take advantage of it. So I think that the scoring potential from the decks varies some. Let's see what else is different. There's the exploration phase. That's a huge difference. So one of the things that's key about this is you can go fishing at the end of the round, and you can send your explorers to go fishing or explore. Actually, I should say fishing. They go conquering or pillaging. So you put them on a boat, you send them into the exploration. You have to pay fish to do it. So
only if you do the
go
one side.
the far away, because they have to eat along the way. So you send them if you send them with an axe, then they're going to conquer, and you'll get a card that gives you perks along either immediate perks or actions that you can use, and they give you a victory point just for having the card. Or you get resources if you don't conquer. If you pillage, you get resources and victory points. So it's a nice little exploration. And then there's an expansion that came, I think I got the Kickstarter of this, so I think that's why I got these expansions. But it's a little mini expansion that you could do where you could pay 2 fish and go really far and basically get a one-time perk that gives you 2 of the actions from this rondelle, as Robert would call it, and then also some additional bonus. So those are the big differences in the game. It's also got a fixed score of 25 points as opposed to rounds. In Imperial Settlers, there's I think 5 rounds is what it was or something like that. This one actually has a cutoff of whoever scores 25 victory points by actually earning points, not from your card count. Because each card in the game is worth a victory point at the end of the game.
If played.
Yeah, not in hand, but yeah, if you've got it in your tableau on the table. And then your resources and gold are worth victory points at the end. Gold is worth 1 victory point. Resources are worth for every 2 you get a victory point. So that's really all there is to the game. Once somebody gets that 25 point mark, that triggers the end of the game, either that round, or if it's done during the exploration phase, it'll be the next round.
Yeah. So what was your favorite part? Would you choose this over Imperial Settlers, or what circumstances do you think that this game excelled at?
I think having the fixed decks is probably a good move. I think if you're asking me if I would pick this over Imperial Settlers, the answer is absolutely not. I prefer Imperial Settlers by far over this. I think it was a step down as far as the fun factor of it. I understand why they did some of the changes as we were playing through. I just don't feel like it added. I think it detracted. But I do think that the decks were getting out of hand on the other end. If you kept adding expansion after expansion, it was going to get even more out of hand. So I could see why they would approach it this way as opposed to the continuous upgrading of the decks in the other one. I did not like the 2 actions on the limiting. I think I like getting the resources. The resource phase I think was important to Imperial Settlers. The fact that they took that out really threw me off for the whole game when we were playing, because it was like, okay, now I have to harvest to get my resources, but you distribute the rondelle, it's a random shuffle. So depending on where those fall, you could get into a situation where the harvest is not close to anything you need based upon your deck. And that's really, I think, a bummer, because you can only you place your action to token on there, and then you can pay an apple to move it to one adjacent space. Well, it has to be adjacent. So if it's not, if your deck's built around 1 or 2 of those key actions and they're on the opposite side of what you need from each other, getting to them is going to be difficult. So I felt my deck was very limiting because one, I only had one apple production card. Well, I think there were two, but they were both one level. So getting apples was difficult for me.
Well, the thing is, but I didn't even need my apple harvest cards.
Mhm.
I'd never harvested my apples. I only harvested my fish. And so, like, I had no problems getting apples just through the course of stuff. So,
well, I mean, everybody has different limitations in their decks, but being the fact that the apples,
stone was mine, man.
yeah, I had lots of stone. And
I couldn't get stone.
So that for building, I had no problem building, and it's a good thing because the construct action was on the complete opposite side of everything I would have needed. So if I had to,
but the construct and harvest was next to each other, so why couldn't have you done those two?
I'm saying the construct was I needed to sail. My actions were all about fish and sailing.
Okay.
So given the fact of where the sail was,
sail and harvest
construct was the problem. That's what I'm saying. So if I didn't have stone as a major production for me, it was going to be a problem.
Oh, okay. So, but it wasn't. But yeah, your harvest and sail were next to each other.
Harvest and sail were, and that's why I took advantage of a few times. And then the explore was one of the keywords because I guess one other difference on this is some of the buildings trigger. They're based upon, or some of the building cards trigger based upon the fact that you're not just playing the resources, but if you take one of those card actions.
Yeah, the features.
Well, it's not just features. There's a lot of them that were just one-time use cards that they would burn, but you would play them based upon the fact that you took an action there. So you could only play one of them. So if you went to an explore and you had 3 explore play it cards, you can only play one of them. So
yeah, how many of those did you
I
have?
had a bunch of them. I had a ton of them.
Oh, so you were limited where I wasn't limited on that. Like
I'd say half my deck was those.
Oh, see, mine
and
wasn't
most
like
of
that
them
at
were
all.
explore. So I had to go to explore, which thankfully was right next to sail, but it was not near harvest. So I had populate and explore were my 2 big ones. So getting workers, that's why I had a ton of workers because I didn't need them, but I had them.
Yeah. So give this a score.
From a first time play, I think I'm at a 7.5 on it. I don't think it quite reaches an 8. It didn't feel as fun. I think I'm at a 9 on Imperial Settlers, the base game, if I remember right. I think this one's more of a 7.5 for me.
I actually really enjoyed it. So it gives that Imperial Settler feel. I got to build. No one really messed with me. I like the exploration thing. I noticed early on, I think that is definitely a must action. You must use all the boats that you have to kind of get going forward to get those victory points. Now, the only thing is I did not pillage. I did not pillage. I only conquered. And I would be interesting, and I think throughout the game, none of us really pillaged, but you get the same amount of victory points for pillaging
as I didn't have any axes.
Yeah. Now the pillage you got a victory point for, but the cards worth a victory point. So either way, the victory points were the same. It really just mattered about resources and then maybe having that ability that was on the card. So that was really kind of, you literally paid the axe for the ability on that card. So that was an interesting kind of play there. And then I also noticed is that I did not need to go to the further islands until the last round, which I didn't understand why paying an extra fish for what netted you almost nothing.
There was one additional resource on them, and I think the actions were slightly more powerful.
Slightly, but not enough. I don't know. Maybe it's just the strategy that I particularly played, and my strategy did work. I came out quite significantly ahead, but maybe it was just with that deck. I actually really enjoyed it. I think there's a lot of strategy to play with. I like the moving. I didn't even realize that you could just move without a card up there with the apple. So that actually, knowing that I could have done it 3 times because my card ability had only been able to do it once per turn is kind of the thing. I really liked it. I'm probably give this an 8. I would want to play this again.
Well, I want to play it again. I definitely want to try the other factions out.
I now want to play your deck to see what you were.
I think mine was probably one of the more entry-level decks, is my guess, because it had yours had much more complexity of your actions. Mine was very basic.
Yeah, I had to play everything just right. Like I had to tinker, but once I got that rhythm going, I just kept with that rhythm, and it quite worked out quite nicely. So I was able to I only had one card that allowed me to trigger harvest, but I used that appropriately along with all the other benefits I had to not need that. I only needed to harvest once around, which I think in this game is actually pretty hard to do. And the fact that I was able to have those things all in place really helped me out.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, guys, we appreciated you hanging out with us today. Hopefully, you'll want to hang out with us again. See you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.